Hello! So this evening we are taking a look at the Embrya 121 by BRSim Designs and Microsoft Flight Simulator. We're on the ground at Boonville in the US and the weather is looking hopefully quite nice for us. So yeah, the windsock in the distance there is almost hanging straight down. So we've got a nice still day to go and try the aeroplane out. So you can see it's modelled really nicely. So the texture modelling and the 3D structures are really good around the aeroplane. I guess we come to take it for granted now that aeroplanes will look this good in the simulator, but it is very, very good. If we go and jump inside, even though the developer says that it's not study level, there's an awful lot of functionality here for the money. So it's about £21 from Sim Market. And you can see there's a lot in here. There's even a tablet, so if we go and turn the tablet on, we can use this to control the configuration of some of the elements of the cockpit, so we can swap things out. We can put a GTN 750 in place of the GNS 530 in the cockpit. We can close all of the various doors, and you can see there's all nice animations around them, so that's all good. Okay, so we can go and put the tablet back away for the moment. So I guess one of the only small downers with it so far has been the checklists. So although they are implemented both in the tablet and in the simulator, the view options to see things, nothing lights up when you select to see it, and also the views only take you to an kind of a wider view, so you have to kind of hunt around finding things for yourself. So it's actually taken me a good couple of hours to work through the checklist, and there are mistakes in the labelling of things in the checklist as well. Only subtle things, but enough to throw you off sometimes. Okay, so I've written a checklist, and I'll put it in the notes of the video, and we'll wander around the aircraft and get things started up. So the first thing on my checklist was to close the doors, so we've already done that in the tablet, we don't have to. So then we'll go overhead with Control and 4. And on the main bar in the middle, so that's here, we're going to go and turn battery to on. You'll hear a beeping straight away. So that lights up this light in the cockpit. We'll just click that to stop it. Then back overhead, so Control 4 again. We go to the AC bar on the left and put the inverters for 1 and 2 to on. And then we go to the external lights at the bottom left, put the nav lights to on and the anti-collision lights to on. So passenger lights bottom right, seatbelts to on, no smoking to on. So you will notice maybe I'm not doing things absolutely perfectly to the checklist or to the real aircraft. I've taken shortcuts here and there just to make this a bit more timely, and because some things just aren't implemented. So Control and 5, co-pilot position, fuel system. This is the grey square here. So we're going to put left auxiliary to auto, and then turn on the fuel pump, turn right auxiliary to auto, and then turn on the fuel pump. Okay, so the auxiliaries will kick in if they need to. Okay, so overhead, so Control and 4 to go back overhead. We want to engine ignition and start, so we're going to do left start to start. So that's this one here. So it should stay on start, and it doesn't. The instructions sound like it should stay on start. So while that is starting, you will look down here and you will see this needle moving on the NG for the left engine. So when it gets to 12%, it will stall out, and then you can advance the fuel condition for the left engine, and it will continue on round. When it gets to about 45%, we can then push the lever further on to, because it's in idle at the moment, we can push it to high idle. So there we go, it's just gone through, and as soon as that happens you can go back overhead with Control 4, and looking on the ignition start sequence again, we are looking for the generators, which are, I always get lost with this. Here we go. So generators can come on. We don't have to turn the start off because it didn't stick on start, so this is where we differ from the checklist, or the printed checklist anyway. So generator is now on for the left engine. So let's go and start the right engine. So again, it flicks back down on its own. Come back down. We're looking at the NG. We're getting a warning now. We'll get rid of that. Don't worry about it. So this will stall out at about 12%. We advance. This comes around to about 45%. So we're just waiting for the needle, and then we can advance to high on the fuel condition, and it will continue on round. And outside you will see the propellers are coming up to speed. Okay, so then back overhead, we will go and turn on the generator for the right engine. We don't have to stop the ignition. It automatically came off on its own, which differs from all of the instructions. Okay. So in the aircraft pressurization section at the top left, this threw me for a long time. The instructions are very unclear. So we're going to go and open the vents. We're going to turn the vent to on. Oh, sorry, we're going to put it to vent, not on. And we're going to switch on the air conditioning, the vent and the AC switch. This switch in the middle here can go between manual and auto. It's already in auto, but it's not very clear. So then back on the pedestal, we press Control 3 to come down to the pedestal. We're going to set the altitude target for the cabin. So if you're going to say fly at 5,000 feet, for example, you just move this needle and the cabin will pressurize itself appropriately. So then we come back into the cockpit and we uncage the backup attitude indicator. And then back overhead again, we go and turn the pitot heats on if we are near the runway, because you have to do that within a couple of minutes of taking off usually. So back in the cockpit, we come down underneath everything and turn the radio master switch on. So I actually think this is the wrong order. I think the pitot heat should come on almost last, but that's just me. And there's probably good reasons for it not being in the order you would imagine it to be. So we're just waiting for the GPSs to start up. While we're waiting for that, we can go and turn the weather radar to standby. So there's a switch here for it, and you get like a matrix shows up. We could calibrate the altimeters as well while we're waiting. So we just pressed B and that's calibrating them. So there we go, the GPS is fired up. So we'll wait for it to capture satellites. We're not actually going to navigate anywhere, we're just going to have a fly around. We set flaps for takeoff, which will be the second setting on my controller. We can go and put the throttles to max RPM. And we can go and turn the transponder on. So transponder is right in the middle here. So you can see it's already on actually, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay. So we're just going to have a fly around today. So we're not going to worry too much about navigating appropriately or anything like that. So I'll come off the parking brake. It looks like the parking brake on a default set of controls is just doing toe brakes. So there's this lever here which releases the parking brake properly. And then when you come off the toe brakes you start rolling. Now here's a big problem I have with this aeroplane. Notice how fast it's accelerating. I'm on idle. And it's racing off like a sports car down the taxiway. And it's accelerating almost enough to take off. So this is the only major fault I have found with this aeroplane, is the idle of the engine is awful. So if we go and look here, this will show the beta on each side. If I pull just gently back on my throttles, I've not pulled them back through 0, we're right at the edge of beta. But if I let go, there's a massive amount of positive thrust. So we go full throttle. And I'll look outside to do this. So we're off the ground. So gear up. Apparently the aeroplane uses the same sound set as the King Air, I believe. So obviously the developers didn't have the resources to get a good sound set, but I haven't got a problem with that. My only issue is with the treatment of the idle. of the propellers with causing so much thrust. So we're going to come back off the throttle slightly. So this translates also into problems with landing the thing as well, because you can't slow it down. So you either have to do an incredibly shallow approach with flaps and gear down. You still have a job slowing down, so you have to do a very, very shallow approach and almost use beta on purpose to get it to fall onto the ground. But it's a shame in a way, because otherwise it's a really nice aeroplane. I could see myself using it a lot. But that one problem in the thrust modelling kind of kills it. The other issue I've had to make a separate stick configuration for it, for the actual joystick, which I've never had to do with another aeroplane. It was so sensitive, but this may be realistic. This may be why the real thing has the stick shaker. So it's worth pointing out while we're flying along, the wing and engine assemblies for this aircraft were borrowed from the Banderanti, the Embrya Banderanti, I think it's the 110, is it? So it's the same wings and engines, it's just got a different fuselage. But yeah, there were serious problems when this aircraft was being developed with instability, which caused deep stalls, which is why we've got these nice angle of attack meters. Not that we really need them, because it's a job to slow it down, but if we go into a climb, just to show you this, and we'll pull the throttles back to idle. So the prop speed should disappear sometime soon. Here we go. Let's put this stick on so you can see it. So we're seeing it dumping the nose on purpose. So it's trying to save the aeroplane. Okay, so we've got 100 knots there. So we're going to slowly turn around the end of the valley, and then we'll bring it back in for a landing. But even so, look, I'm on idle on the engines, and we're going through 140 knots. So although this is completely against what you might do in the real world, we're going to bring the propellers back down to minimum RPM, just to give ourselves half a chance of descending. So we're still within flaps range here, so we're going to go for gear as well, and full flaps. And we're going to have a problem slowing down. See, look, we're level, and with full flaps and gear down, it really isn't wanting to slow down in a hurry. So let's just circle to lose some height while we're doing so we can have a look outside at it. I mean, it's a lovely looking aeroplane, it's just a shame it has this. It may be that the real thing had a massive thrust problem, and it was like a cut shut with the engines that weren't matched with the fuselage, you know, with the thrust to weight ratio. Maybe it was a problem to fly in this regard. So as well as being twitchy, maybe it was just too fast. Okay, so we're about 100 knots, which is not too bad at all. You can switch off the stick shaker, by the way. There's a red switch down here. If you uncover it and switch it off, then you get rid of all the safeguards, and you can probably make the aeroplane swap ends and tumble completely unintentionally. If you're wondering about the flight directors there, obviously I didn't put a flight plan in. There is a switch down here for GPS versus radio navigation. So obviously you can make that make a bit more sense. See, we're still not descending. So I'm going to force it into a massive side slip to hopefully bring us down to the airfield. So I'm forcing the aeroplane sideways with maximum left rudder and right wing down. But I can almost guarantee if we straighten up, we're going to be too fast, too high, and glide along the runway. I'm having to put quite a lot of forward stick into this. I'm not trimming it on purpose to see what effect the flaps are having on the airframe. I'm just getting rid of having to push forwards now. So under 100 knots, it's not pitching up so badly. We are actually going to come in over the runway, so it's not as bad as I anticipated. So as soon as we get down, we'll go to beta on the engines and come off of beta again. So let's see what the turning circle is like. I'm on brakes the whole time to stop it accelerating now. So the turning circle is great. But if we let go of the brakes, we start accelerating remarkably quickly. So it is manageable. So I'm putting the flaps back up now. It is manageable. It's just, I can't imagine it was that bad. But maybe it was. Maybe this is how the real aircraft was. And maybe that's why we never really see them around, because it was dangerous. But we just performed that landing, remember, on minimum RPM on the propellers. So I think this needs an update. I don't know. I've got into trouble saying this before, where real pilots have turned up and said, no, that's exactly how the real plane was. But this just seems wrong. But maybe the real airplane was wrong. So I've learnt my lesson that with, you know, making grand pronouncements, I'm not a pilot of the real thing. So, get the parking brake back on, if we can. Let's pull the fuel condition, which is obviously going to set alarms off all over the place. So we're going to reset the alarm. It's just it's going off because you can see things will be lighting up now. We're losing oil pressure slowly. We've lost air conditioning. We're losing hydraulic pressure. It's very cool the way everything's modelled. But there you go. So if we go back in the tablet, we can go and open the various doors, put the chocks back in place. It's great, isn't it? It's just a shame about that little bit of modelling, but again, like I said, it might be accurate. For all we know, this could be a dangerous aeroplane. But for 20 quid, it's really good, I think. It's just it's just a handful, and you do have to turn the throws down, particularly on the elevator. So I had to soften the elevator out quite a lot to make it manageable. Anyway, here we go. It's the Embrya 121 from BRSim Designs. If you like the look of it, it's not too expensive. Go and get a copy of it. Okay, I'll see you soon.